in from. My name is Vijay Mistry. I'm the CEO and founder of Renter Director, author of multiple corporate trainings, which have a green light status award from the UK Trade and Investment. And our purpose is to see you leaders achieve standards of excellence in everything you do, and for those who have businesses, to help you to scale your businesses with ease. Now, my dear friends, today we are going to talk about an extremely important topic, which is the disconnects which many businesses face. Now, why are we sharing these insights on disconnects? Because today, over the last few years, we have noted that there's a common pattern of disconnects out there. And we want to share these with you so that you get a better perspective, a better idea, and it will open up your mindset to other opportunities and other possibilities as well. So this is where the impact is, this is where the traction is going to be, and this is where the growth is going to be for you as leaders. Now, here's first things first, is that please say hi in the chat box. Will be this is just an open interaction. If you have any questions, please contribute, say hi, and let us know where you from. And before I introduce you to a very special guest, I just want to first and foremost pass to my dear friend and my business partner, Soin Shah, who's in Nairobi. I'm based here in London, United Kingdom. I'll pass it over to Soin. Soin, over to you.
Thank you, Vijay, and a warm welcome to everyone to this very interesting live webinar on how to overcome the biggest disconnects businesses face. And we all know how some of these big disconnects actually finally end up into companies actually going into administration, receivership, and all that, as some of them are not rectified earlier on. So in this webinar, we will be sharing with you valuable nuggets, valuable golden nuggets, which are actually insights and forward-looking signals, which need to be, which actually show that these disconnects need to be rectified. So we will go straight into the main discussion points with our guest of honor today, being Deepak, who has taken time out to join us all the way from UK. A bit of house rules, I must, of course, get into that as we go, before we jump in. Please take notes. This is very important, and remember that when you take notes, you actually remember some of those points more vividly, and they actually stay ingrained within you. Please feel free to put all your comments and questions in the chat box that is available for you to freely let us have your various opinions, comments, queries as we go along. So without much further ado, let's get it rolling, Vijay.
Thank you, Soin. And just say hi. Wherever you're from, just please comment and say hi. That would be wonderful. But I want to just give you a little bit of a background as to why you should listen to us. And today we've got a special guest, Deepak Shah. Now, Deepak is an FCCA member, fellow chartered certified accountant. In fact, Soin and I, we all are fellow chartered certified accountants. And he's a chiropractor practitioner as well, and has over 28 years of multifaceted experience. His wealth of experience and ability to deal with complex issues make him the go-to person in all organizations he's worked with. His work has been seen to make it into the 2011-2012 ABN Deal Book of the Year, financing roadshows, and with IFC for new production facilities, 10 new brands with over 60 SKUs. That's definitely commendable. Introduced in East Africa, 8 new factories established in Africa, with 1 in Madagascar. And finally, as a group chief finance officer of a leading publicly held insurance company He has put in place mechanisms which have brought in governance of procedures, systems, and timely deliverable of reporting and de-risked the inherent fraud risks. Welcome, Deepak.
Thank you, Vijay. And good morning, all viewers. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you're listening in from.
Thank you, Deepak. And let's get straight and deep dive into these insights of the disconnects that many face. So, first and foremost, let me just start off straight away with you, Deepak. I mean, can you share one of the key disconnects you have come across in your 28 years of experience? I mean, jointly between you, me, and Soin, we've got over 60 years of wealth and wisdom that we are going to share with you, which is going to add more value. So, over to you, Deepak, if you can start with the first disconnect you may have come across.
Thank you, Vijay and Soin. So one key issue, and it all boils down to one basic tenet of life: communication. Communication across to all the people wherever they may be working, for the organization, for the group, for you personally, or as a team. And the biggest disconnect starts there. If there is no alignment, if there is no vision agreed upon by all the stakeholders, then it becomes very difficult, and that's where the disconnect in businesses start. So it's one of the biggest challenges. Many people write it off to different communities, different states of minds, different qualifications, different stages of life. But one must remember that as a business leader, you will have people working for the group, for the organization from all walks of life, various segments of the nation, of the communities, and you'll have all sorts of people you'll come into contact with. I mean, if you ask a question to a 20-year-old or a millennial, what his view should be on a P&L item, it'll be very different to a view of a 47-year-old like myself, or even grossly different for a 60-year-old, because the stages of life we're in are very different. And therefore, how do you align all of these differences, set a common vision, a common mission, to embark on your growth opportunities and engage all people across all segments, all departments, all walks of life, all supply chain partners, all financial partners, in fact everybody that has a connection with the business. So I think in a nutshell,
Wow.
that's where I would stand at.
Yeah. Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, Deepak, for kicking off this discussion. And obviously, communication is a key component. Wherever it is, whenever we are talking about the disconnects, obviously communication is the sort of nexus or the central point in anything that we do. And Suin, I'll turn over to you. Maybe you can just elaborate, extend, or maybe give an example from your experience. You know, you and I, we've got some many practical experiences, but maybe you can share something out of this.
I mean, number one, I must point out that what Deepak has said is a real issue in so many of the businesses where there's serious disconnect between all levels of, when all levels of management, even from the start, from the point of shareholder perspective to the board members perspective, board of directors, and the management. And then when it goes further down, it completely deciphers. I mean, there's a huge disconnect. So that actually leads to what we are seeing in so many companies, a lot of infighting. And it's actually something. What I say is there needs to be a complete change of culture so that we don't digress, and information is disseminated across the organization. There is a book that I read recently of John Doerr, and it says clearly that organization needs to set the objectives and roll down the key result areas very transparently. And as we all say, I mean, in all walks of life, we always say that measure what matters. This is very key. And when this thing happens, and when everyone is aligned towards the common objective of the company, then you know the company is going in the same direction. So I mean, when there is what Deepak is clearly saying, and when there is a lack of communication from top down and bottom up as well, then there is a disjointed company, and that means the objectives are not clear. There is complete misalignment, and the company can actually end up in a real doldrums, as I call it, because I mean, straight away the scorecard will reflect what is happening in the company in a few moments. I mean, you can say 1, 2, 3 months down the line, because then cash flows start misaligning. I'll give you one valid example where one of the directors whose main intent was actually to do research and development, and they wanted to make majorly scale up uh, very fast, and it was his not only it was his innate abilities to do R&D on the on the product, but with hindsight and without looking at what would be the impact on the materials, on the inventories, he went ahead and ordered a range of materials to satisfy the R&D mission. Now, what happened is that clearly was a disconnect between the two arms of the business. One was the R&D, and then the other arm was the actual business in terms of the cash flow management and the accounting part. So, of course, conflict will always arise, because everyone will point a finger at each other and say, you have not projected for this cash flow gap. And the other one will say, yes, we have not done, maybe we have not adequately captured, but we never anticipated this kind of materials coming in. So this kind of disconnect will actually, and if you multiply this kind of impact, it can really make a huge issue in terms of the bottom line. I mean, straight away, we all know that businesses remain afloat when they have sufficient cash flows to satisfy their day-to-day needs, be it payment of suppliers, payment of their manpower, payment of other overheads that are being incurred. And remember, we have seen so many companies in the day-to-day. I can tell you of a multinational retail. Of course, that company is it's there out in the public, and I'm talking about the Nakumatt. It was in several countries, and one of the major aspects that we see is that it went down. Most likely, the way we perceive it, it was a lack of communication, lack of transparency of what was happening in the various indicators in the business. Because the way we see it is that this kind of a disaster we had foreseen this quite a long time back. So, I mean, we can talk about many such examples, and there are several root causes of what leads to the downfall of these companies. But mainly, and a pivotal aspect is communication, and the major aspect is the reaction times to what has been communicated to. It is two ways. Remember, everything is a two-way traffic. So if I say something, there is a direct feedback on that, and there needs to be some action from that on my side as well, and on the person who's the recipient. So everything works in a two-way, and that's what I feel, and that's my comment and feedback to you, Vijay. I hope I have deliberated well on this topic.
Yes. Now, there are 2 points which have emerged out of this discussion between both of you, Deepak and Soin. And here's what I want to just give I just want to add to my perspective to what you have just said. The first, when we speak about communication, lack of communication is a key disconnect. But here's the thing: sometimes you communicate and the other party doesn't understand. I attended a board meeting some time ago, and there was a discussion going on, and I was completely lost because it was some technical issues which I didn't understand. And I said, "Whoa, whoa, hold on! Can you please, uh, you know, just narrate it in simple language?" The reason I'm bringing this forward is communicating with clarity is where the impact is. When you communicate with clarity and when the other party understands, that's where the impact is. So the communication alone is an important conduit, but add that clarity bit. So understand to interpret that particular message or whatever initiative or project that you want to embark upon, or whatever your expectations are. This is key. And in order to do that, what do you really need to do? You don't need to just be, there are three types of listeners. One is passive listening, when somebody is just on their mobile and they're just listening, but it's just coming in and absorbing. The second is an active listener who would listen with attention. But the third one is the one who listens with empathy. That is where the power is, that is where the impact is, that is where the traction is, that is where the growth is, that is where the progression is. So it's very important that you look into that particular element. Now, the second point which Soin mentioned, and he was referring to these other aspects in the business, and that is neglecting the holistic perspective, as I put it. In other words, paying attention on one particular aspect without looking at it from a macro level or from a holistic standpoint. This is why Deepak brought out about vision, having a compelling vision, linking that vision again with clarity and with communication, and ensuring that everything is taken into consideration. The basket of risks from every moving part in the business has to be properly looked into, because that in itself, that is the key disconnect we have noted in one organization. I'll just give you an example. This was a promotional company some years ago, made a windfall of profit in 1 year, huge profit. They decided to go to another territory, another country altogether, and set up their operations there, service company. But here's the thing: when it came to the risk mitigation and when it came to looking at all the moving parts and all the components, they missed out on a key chunk, which means that they did not really pick up the signals, and they were very shallow in thinking they'll be making the same sort of windfall profits if they move to the other territory, which led them to making massive losses at the end of the day. And this is a reality. So the message we are bringing out is that make sure that you communicate with all the steps in place, and think again. If you need to think again and recalibrate or course correct if you need, or alter your trajectory if you need to, depending on whatever your circumstances, wherever you're located. But look at what is the 80%, as I put it, which is logic. That is where the loosely defined term comes in, where you can apply 80% and 20% you can apply your gut. So those are my takes at this particular point in time. But again, I want to shift gears and go back to Deepak.
Just
Deepak, can you share some more, because this is really interesting and this is really exciting. So over to you, Deepak. Maybe you can give some more of these.
Sure. Thank you, Vijay. So you're absolutely right. Clarity with a purpose. That is very important. But I'd like to add a twist to this, Vijay and Soin.
Go
And
ahead.
the twist is around understanding the people around you. Do they have the capacity, the capability? You talked about an apathetic listener, and that listener is do we have that within the organization? Do we have that within the execution and the performance team? I'll give you an example. I mean, I worked in various organizations. The shareholder wants to fly at 30,000 feet, delivering revenues over $1 billion. The board members are struggling with cash flows, are struggling with debtor days, payments, payment cycles, working capital, and managing the production facilities. The management have their own agendas. They want to do things their own way. They want benefits to be improved. They want to be seen to be working for a better organization with all the pluses and less of the minuses. Now, these are very three different requirements at each stakeholder level. And then you come to the assessment in terms of delivery. You talk, you provide a vision, you communicate with clarity, you even put down the steps of what needs to be done. But if the skill sets, if the capacity, if the capability of the team is not there, you will not be able to achieve that vision, that mission that you set yourself out on. And this is where it becomes utmost important. Do you have the right go-get team to get it done? And are all the mindsets aligned to this? And this is where I'd like to talk about a little bit of the self-misalignment. As a senior individual having all this experience under my belt, I still feel that I still have a long way to go and there's a lot more to learn. And having this mindset is very important because that then embraces the growth trajectory of one's self and also getting the right team to achieve the growth trajectory that one's looking for. But it also comes back to how are the people being taken care of? What are the tools? What are the things that are provided to embrace, to increase capacity, capability, and improve one's self to go to that next level? And that becomes very important. And as stakeholders, they need to be looking at this all the time. And we call this the HRM evaluation. And that evaluation is very important at senior leadership levels. I mean, in most organizations, you find that it's being done for middle management, junior guys, very thoroughly, very importantly. But when it comes to the senior guys, it's sort of pushed aside. And it never comes true to friction. And this is where it then has a downward trend because it becomes a us against them issue in most organizations. And that they see that people at the top are favored people. They are sort of protected by some hand, and they will get their way all the time. However, the communication at that level also needs to be very clear that the assessment, the performance is always there, and you're always benchmarked against that. And it's brought to the front end so that it's opened up. I mean, a lot of organizations try to hide things for the senior people. They'll use a consulting company to pay the salaries through. A management fee will just come in. The sugar industries did that a lot. And look at where we are at the state of the sugar industry in East Africa. Today, private corporates are taking over the state-owned sugar industries. Why? Because there was a major abuse and misuse of funds. Right? And this is something that's very, very important at all levels. Capacity, capability of the teams to focus and execute the vision, the mission that we set ourselves out to, and where do we want the growth trajectory to come from. At the same time, we're in a very competitive, cutthroat price environment. The currencies don't help us. The global currencies don't help us, right? And everybody is challenged. So where do you find that place of profit generation, right? Right back to basics. and this is very important in any organization, to move from where they are currently to get onto the bandwagon of a growth trajectory.
Right. No, interesting. That's
It's a very different twist
definitely.
what I've brought in. Sorry,
Yes,
Vijay,
that's
but
it. No. That's absolutely fine
Vijay,
because
I just want, yeah, sorry,
carry
Vijay.
on.
I just want to add to what Deepak has said just now, and he has given some invaluable points which are critical for many of these large companies where disconnects are serious and they keep on widening. I call it a chasm of disconnect, and it's becoming wider. As it's as good as you can say, that the inequalities of the rich and the poor, how it is widening in today's world. It's the same thing where large organizations are facing, where there is a tremendous disconnect between the top and bottom up. And this is, as much as it widens, then, as I said earlier, it reflects on the bottom lines of these companies and the cash flows.
Mhm.
The other aspect is, I would always say that we need to look at how do you keep it simple, KIS, sorry. Of course, the key T has a different aspect altogether, which we'll discuss later. But keep it simple and break it down to what is required. And the other aspect is, I mean, what Deepak has brought out is how do you keep all the stakeholders happy? This kind of balance is something that is required as we go along, and that's where what will bring the company to a sustainable profit level. And that, if there is an imbalance, then something will give, and when that gives, it is a disaster waiting to happen. So over to you, Vijay. Sorry for my interruption.
Yeah, no, I want to go back to you, Soin, on one particular point which Deepak raised. I just want your insight on that. Is Deepak spoke about the right fit. I mean, the communication to the team, but then obviously the execution falters. What's your thoughts on that? And if you can give us some insight from your end.
I think it all boils down to how the communication is disseminated, and it's all about how do you bring all of the team together and tell them. And there is one simple thing always that you on the other side of the coin is that when you want to, and these are pure principles of human resource management, is that when you want to appraise a person and you want to give him good feedback, you can always do that in public if you may choose. But when you want to tone down or correct somebody, do it in private. So coming back to your original question, and that is how do we improve communication? Is being the bottom line is being transparent and having your ethics and your intentions clearly known from the word go, and also together with values. Work with your values. If you are going to hide in some things within you and you are going to say, I'm going to achieve certain things because I'm hiding, it will come back to bite you. Get that out, get your team. And one of the things that is there is trust. This is a very serious thing. And there's another book about speed of trust. I think some of you might have read it.
Mm.
This is a very key thing which really binds the entire team together. When we have that kind of trust and connect with each other, even a single word with just a bit of even just an expression can actually say, here something is wrong, and the other person will easily know. You don't need to write paragraphs and paragraphs or huge communications which actually in the end is more like politics and creates a lot of confusion. That aspect which I'm talking about, trust, needs to be built from top to bottom and bottom to top, again I will say. Because when there is trust, the issue of achieving objectives will never be an issue at all, because it will be forthcoming, because you will be able to trust on the people to deliver. and you will know it is coming. You will have the faith to know that there is that thing coming. And then the other aspect is the follow-up. Yes, I know businesses require follow-up from all direction, but that follow-up is also reduced because when the person has said something, it's going to be done. This is important. When somebody falters on that aspect and he does not do what he says, then he has broken a level of trust. And that for me, it really applies. And in many organizations, which I think Vijay has seen, we always act on it and see, and we put the person into all this kind of, we always put the person into what is it called, the improvement program. Okay. uh, and ultimately you see their values coming out, and it clearly tells you that this person is not fit for the organization. So all these things actually add up to how you want to drive that organization. Over to you, Vijay.
Thanks, Soin. And again, I'll take it back to Soin a bit later because Deepak mentioned something about self misalignment. But here's my take, and obviously I fully concur with what you have said. I mean, there's lots of all this biases, as I would put it, within organizations, and the likability factor as well in some instances, where there is one particular person or two of their confidants whom they really like and whom they heavily rely on, but they may not be adding value as well. And Deepak, what you mentioned about skill sets, absolutely true. And what Soin mentioned about values, that's again nuggets, because those are the golden nuggets. Because once you have your values aligned, and again, this goes back to fundamentals, irrespective of how big your organization is or how small your organization is, the fundamentals has to be there. If you have your fundamentals in place, what's going to happen is that your pillars are going to be there. The variables will change, just like what Deepak was mentioning, that the perspective of a 20-year-old millennium or a 47-year-old, it would be different. The perspectives, the variables, everything's going to change because it's a dynamic process altogether. But the fundamentals, the pillars, which are the principles, which are the purpose of the organization, the vision of the organization, the spot, as we said, which is the specific point of destination, the values of the organization, if those are aligned, then, my dear friends, then you will see the impact it's going to make. Here's my take on one more point which Deepak has mentioned, and that is the leadership pipeline we were talking about, and the expectations not being met because of the skill sets not being in that particular right alignment altogether. So here's the thing: you need to make sure that before creating any position, or even when creating a position, you need to have a non-negotiable criteria. As Soin and I, we normally have what we consider as a non-negotiable criteria, which has to start with obviously the value alignment to begin with, and then it goes into the skill sets, skills, competencies, and experiences at the end of the day. But here's another aspect, is when you pick up how hungry a person is towards the goal and mission, or towards him or her progressing, you can know straight away that he or she is the right fit. Of course, making sure they align to that particular skill set. If you're looking for a finance person, there are certain criteria you require. Same with a marketing person. But here's where the problem is: the disconnect starts when the decision makers, or who are recruiting, make the wrong choices, and then they live with those wrong choices, knowing they are the wrong choices. And this has happened in many instances. One business owner comes up and says, I've got this person here, somebody senior, but this person's not really adding value. And I'm telling him, what are you doing about it? If he's not adding value, what action are you taking? Are you okay? So you've got an appraisal process taking place, and you are closely monitoring and everything. But if you're not going to take the right action, what's going to happen? You're going to live with that. So if you have a person who's not the right fit, then you have to let go. Soin and I, we had some senior person in one particular manufacturing manufacturing organization, we had to let him go because he was not the right fit. And he was not aligned to what our expectations were. And we had to part in a very amicable manner, saying that, look, you have qualities, you got your skill sets, but you're not the right fit for this particular organization. You would be a very good fit elsewhere. So that is very key and critical. Now I'll just shift gears on one more point. And Deepak, you mentioned about self misalignment. And can you touch on this as well, on the self misalignment? Because I think that is a critical component, and there is something, like lonely at the top and identity crisis. Maybe you can expand slightly on that, Soin.
So, Norma, okay. So Vijay, in terms of self misalignment, I mean, what I'm
Yeah.
referring to here, I agree with what you've said. It is lonely at the top. But it also comes back to one's ability and skill sets. What are your technical competencies at senior levels? More often than not, you usually know where your interests lie and what you're able to do. And if you join an organization where their requirement is different to your alignment of where you see the organization going, it then starts creating certain question marks in one's own self, in terms of am I going to flow with this requirement to achieve a goal or a mission, or is there a better, faster way to achieve this mission and goal, and you can do it in a shorter or a different manner, yet create an environment that has happy people coming to work, wanting to be there, upbeat organization, and wanting to get things done. And if the alignment is that no, we're draconian, we must follow strict rules, there's a protocol to be observed, you can't go at that level, that office is not accessible to you, then clearly, if you're not that sort of a person, then you find the self misalignment coming in, and that then demotivates, discourages, and sort of encourages the person to look at other passive sources of income, or start collaborating with other staff members to do other things which will not be good for the organization, and you could have an underwave that could actually wipe out the organization. I mean, I like the issue that Soin brought out earlier about Nakumat. If I was to tell you the black hole in Nakumat was 40 billion Kenya shillings, yeah, it clearly shows you that there was an underwave that was going on, right? And if there was an underwave that was going on, why wasn't it captured? Were the governance mechanisms broken? Were people not communicating correctly? Were not listening correctly to the bottom up feedback? Right? It all comes back to, am I sustainable in my current position? Right? Am I
Yeah.
comfortable? Can I deliver based on my current contractual obligations? And if there is a misalignment in any one of those, the self misalignment will be there.
Mm.
And
Mm.
yes, it's all good to say it's lonely at the top and you've got to grind the mill and go through the run of the mill and everything else. But we're all human beings at the end of the day. We're not robots. We're not bots. We're not chat boxes. We're not uh, automation. We are human beings. And there's a big difference between the way robots operate and human beings operate. And be honest to yourself, if you want a robotic organization to provide products that a human's going to consume, you'll never have the human interface. And it's the same for the service industry. You can throw a lot of robotics to it, you can throw a lot of automation to it, but at the end of the day, if your customer is more human interaction based, all that investment you make will go down the drain. Right? And
True.
and it
True.
comes back to, we need to go back I mean, COVID has made us lonely anyways, as it is. We've been secluded, right? We work from home, we work from the air, we work from remote locations, wherever we may be. We've gone into our comfort zones, right? How are you going to bring back people back to the organization, back to the corporate world, when for a year and a half or over nearly 2 years now, right, we've had a system that has actually made people into cocoons, right? And those cocoons have got them thinking on very different tangents. When I was talking to somebody in the furniture business, who was telling me, my business in the last 2 years has never been this good. I have quadrupled my sales in the last 2 years than I've ever done in my entire 15 years of operation. Why? Because he was actually selling products at retail and at retail prices, which was giving him margins of 30-40%, selling to the individual family homes. Right? He found his sweet spot. Right? But what was the misalignment there? Was his target audience different, or did he just take advantage of the current environment and capitalize on it? Right? And this is critically important. Are people within the organization able to look at the environment they are in and take or grab the opportunities that face them? I like the other presentation that you did last week, where you invited this guy on the capital market, stock market, right? And it was a very interesting scenario when he said in the year 2020, he's gained 140% on his portfolio.
Yeah.
Right. Now that just tells you that he was in the environment, he saw the opportunity, and he took advantage of it. Right. Now, when there is a misalignment, what are the people going to do? Right. I know insurance companies, right, which have faltered, which have lost money on the stock markets because they're too narrow, they're too boxed to take advantage of other situations or other opportunities that come up, and more so in the international markets or in the open markets. And this comes back to this misalignment at the top, or misalignment of the self, right? Not at the top, misalignment of the self, because they are doing things on the side that is in their own interest, understanding that the organization has certain restrictions and certain protocols cannot be broken, and therefore they say, it's just another thing I can't get through to these people, I'll just do it for myself and I'll just let it flow. Yeah. Now that's
Wow.
where the misalignment
Deepak.
starts.
Yes,
Sure,
yes.
sure.
I think I think we can go on and on. We definitely need more sessions, I'm sure, in future. I think we just got about 10 minutes left, so let's look into how we can really wrap up. But can you give your perspective of what Deepak has said? Because I've got a different dimension of thinking, and from my practical experience, and I'm sure even you will concur to what we have done. But so what's your take on what Deepak has said, and what you've heard so far?
Sorry, I was a bit lost because Deepak has shared so many fantastic points here, which have
Yes.
set my mind into so many different directions because they all add up in various facets. And really speaking, if an organizations were to, you know, how do I put it? Simply put, turn their, I mean, be ready to dirty their hands and turn on their, sleeves, turn up their sleeves and go forward and address these issues that are really affecting so many businesses, then we will be not in this conundrum which we are facing. Because I'll tell you one thing, there is so much opportunity outside. No matter what you say, that, oh, people are crying that, you've got thin margins, you've got tight cash flows, there is low liquidity in the market, banks are unwilling to lend because they're always looking for collaterals. But if you align yourself, there is always opportunities out there where these issues can be easily resolved. As Deepak said, one of the cases is, I mean, this is a typical scenario where there is no governance and there is no alignment, where somebody is doing something on the side which is not as per the values of the organization, or it's not in alignment with the objectives of the organization. Of course, you're going to fail because everyone else is going to say what's going on. Everyone is pulling the ship in a different direction. Whereas if you are concerted and you are then taking, you are cognizant of the facts of how the environment is changing, and then you gear up to take advantage of that situation, you are in a situation of the furniture seller. He is clearly taken advantage of the situation, and he's making serious winnings. But he must have been ready, even with the current disjointed supply chain, where we all know that it's taking 3 to 4 to 5 months to get your furnitures delivered. I'm sure he had his things set up so that people don't even think about importing, because anyway they need to import a lot. He had it customized for them, and he made sure that the services were at such a level that he can command the 30-40% we are looking at. In today's business, it's all about service, and service actually comes in how the people react to the requirements. And when you look at it backwards, is how are you taking care of the people or the employees who are responsible for delivering the service? So it is a complete chain of events. So imagine if you are a boss, if you have a MD or you have a shareholder who is not treating the people right, what's going to be the outcome of the people who are delivering the service to the end user? Simple question. And I'm sure you guys have the answer, because it's not going to be in the right manner. And what happens at the bottom line? Because it's a circle, it's a vicious circle, because it will all come down to whereby you're not delivering on the quality of service, the customer is not happy. Of course he will shift because there are various competition out there, and what ends up is that the company is not getting the results and the bottom line is staggered. So as I said, it's a vicious circle. So how do you beat the vicious circle? Get the right people in, get the trust levels aligned, and make sure you treat them well. A lot of
Thank you.
time I feel companies do not, they will treat the assets, the human assets, not the same as the machinery. They will maintain the machines so well, in so much tiptoed. I mean, the Ferraris will be oiled and greased, but the human beings who are running the show, they're not being taken care. So I mean, what more can you expect when you do this kind of thing?
Wow. Well, I think I'm sure all of you watching this, by the way, we are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube as well. So I'm sure all of you watching this, you can see the magnitude, the impact, and a realization as to what really happens. And when we are talking about self misalignment, and by the way, I'm going back to what I had mentioned as well. When I'm talking about lonely at the top, even prior to the pandemic itself, we have seen this thread coming through. I mean, Soin and I, we visited many, admittedly telling us lonely at the top, and we come out with another definition, which is lost at the top as well, because they're directionless. And here's the thing. In some of the family businesses we've come across, the leadership is being passed from father to son or a daughter or a family member. And here's the problem: that leadership skill set of what a CEO or a managing director or whatever you call the person who's making the key decisions that leadership quality and skill set misses out. And that in itself then influences all the other decisions and where the company really heads towards. So it's very important. This is one message we normally say is make sure you have that self-alignment within yourself. And it starts from within. When you have that self-alignment and when you have a proper balance, it's just like I love the way Kuban puts it. A third should go into earning, a third should go into learning, and a third should go into, service. So you're giving service to balance your whole way of moving forward. This is why you have to convert your fear into elasticity, just like the furniture person who managed to quadruple their profits. So it's very important. And I'll just pass it over to Deepak for any wrap-up thoughts or anything else that you can come up with, just to summarize what we have gone through, and just give us a little bit of a complete overview picture, Deepak.
Thank you, Vijay. So I think from a comprehensive and summary perspective, it's just openness, willing and alignment, and getting your teams to come together. One aspect is very important is do your team events, get them together at least once a month, and ensure that you're talking continuously. I mean, we say lonely at the top, but it's critically important to continue talking to your team members. Receiving and listening to feedback is very important. I mean, some of the success stories that we hear about, the ideas actually came up right from the grassroots levels, and we need to go back to that. Um, so bridge that gap, create the bridges, don't burn them, and keep those bridges open all the time. And listen, communicate clearly. Clarity with a vision and a purpose is important. And I think if your teams are all aligned, you'll quickly see and you'll quickly hear as well where there are gaps, where there are resources required, where we need to beef up and bring in new skill sets so that we can move to that next level. And remember, in this process, all stakeholders win. A progressive organization is an organization where all stakeholders win, not just the shareholder or not just the government or not just the employees. It has to be all the stakeholders, including supply chain. All right, and that is very important. And remember, remove muda, remove red tape, remove roadblocks. I mean, when you do that, you're opening a flurry of events and things will start happening. As long as you keep an open mind and clarity with purpose, I think you will get onto the growth trajectory that one's looking for.
Brilliant.
I hope
Thank
that's
you.
enough, Vijay.
No, that's a very good wrap up. Thank you, Deepak. So in your wrap up points.
I really don't have much to say. I think I've said my wrap up, but I must say that in summary, as we talked about, it's all about alignment uh, to the core, and this is what will bring the innate abilities of various members to the fore. And I think I like one aspect that Deepak said is that when you bring everyone to the table and they share ideas openly with commitment and with another aspect that you brought in is that everyone needs to have the fire in the belly to move the company to achieve the objectives. I mean, the sky is the limit. So I think those are my last comments. I don't know. I don't want to go over the time limit. Otherwise, we'll continue discussing for another hour.
Yes, yes. No, I look, you guys. I mean, what you have shared is pure gold nugget, because these are so important for organizations. If you are a CEO, if you're running a business, or even if you're a leader, these insights will help you, and you'll see a different growth, just like what Deepak is putting forward, and engaging with the team as well. What Deepak has mentioned as well, appraising, engaging with the team, incentivizing the team, making sure that you listen to the team as well, building that trust level, which is so important. And it is critical. I mean, if you look at Warren Buffett himself, and he sort of says, yes, governance is important, but for him it's more to do with that trust level. The trust level is very key component in everything. So my message to you is, connect all the dots. Make sure that you take into consideration all the dots within your organization. Yes, focus on the levers, focus into where the leverage is. You have to make sure that you double down on the leverages rather than dabbling or going into other business initiatives. You can go if you have the right resource and the right fit, just like what Deepak was mentioning, making sure that you have the right employees and the right people to take your business ventures to the next level altogether. But as you can see that there's a lot of realization, but at the same time we've even shared a lot of tools and insights for you to make an impact moving forward. So look, thank you very much, Deepak and Soin, for joining as always. And I'm sure I want to have more of these dynamic discussions, and I'm sure we're going to have a whole series of all these discussions moving forward, giving you viewers everything as much as we can to help you to progress as you move forward. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you in the next live session. Bye for now.
Thank you, and bye, and happy Mahavir Jayanti to all my Jain brothers out there. Thank you very much.
Bye bye, and happy Mavi Jayanti as well.